I was talking to a friend the other day about what seemed to be a technical issue. This whole question of managing subsidiaries, managing subsidiary boards, managing agents, and managing staff in foreign countries, and that whole idea of can you do this with systems. And during the conversation, I just thought that in fact all of those issues come down to really the basics of managing people. How do you motivate people? If we go back to thinking about how are people motivated, in general, that is about the basic studies that have been done decades ago of people needing to know what they're supposed to be doing, feeling that they are engaged with what you're doing, getting recognition for doing a good job, and feeling that their ideas are being taken into account. Now you might say, okay, when it comes to having an agent in another country, does any of that apply? Well, in my experience, the answer is very much so, because the best relationship, if you go back to what you want an agent to achieve for you, is to become part of your company in some way, so that they will achieve for you what you cannot achieve yourself. Whether it is that you don't have the resources in a particular country, whether you don't have the expertise, knowledge, or whatever it is, but you want them to do something for you. So, first thing you've got to do with an agent particularly is find the right one with the right capabilities, and that takes a bit of time. Very often it's because somebody knows somebody else and there's no proper research done about what do I really want from that agent and how do I find somebody who will actually be able to do that for me. It's the same with a distributor, and also to a certain extent when you come to appoint a board in a subsidiary. You think about that as well. What do I want this board to achieve? Do I need them, for instance, to have a knowledge of us as a central company? Do they have to have experience from the central company? So do I want to take people out to the board? And then, how am I going to manage this? Well, there's only one way to manage it, and that is to be very, very, very clear about what you want them to achieve. And then communication is the thing that's going to carry you all the way through. And communication is one of those things that we all talk about a lot, but very often we don't bother to sit down and think, what does communication really mean? And communication is very much a two-way street. There is that big distinction between communication and giving information. It's quite easy to give information nowadays with emails and all that sort of thing. But the communication is about a two-way street. So you're listening, you're seeing how your communication, your information is received for a start, so you're being sensitive to what a reaction is to the information that you give, and then you start to listen and see whether people actually understand what you're trying to say. And we all have had examples where emails have been misunderstood, internal memos have been misunderstood, articles in magazines and so on have been misunderstood. So checking what people have understood out of what information has been given is absolutely and utterly vital. So that you then start to listen to the kind of problems that they may have in relation to that information, whether it might not be understanding. It might be whether they are able to implement what you're trying to achieve with the information. Whether it is just background information or whether they're actually expected to act on it. And if they are expected to act on it, what problems may they encounter and resources may they need? What support may they need from you personally? All of that kind of thing is really about the communication, and getting that right and thinking things like that through are absolutely vital. Sometimes it's worthwhile putting a communication plan together to say who needs to know what and in what order. That's when you sometimes get into more sensitive situations. But there is sometimes a real hierarchy of, I need to let that person know first, and that one second, and then perhaps unions might be involved, and so on and so on. In what order do we let everybody know certain things? So thinking communication through is absolutely essential. And if you get that right, that is going to help you manage all of those groups of people, the local employees, the local managers, boards, agents, distributors. They all have their own agenda in some way or another. You listen to that agenda, see how you can accommodate it and come to some sort of conclusion.